Hi everybody, it's Professor Jen. I wanted to talk with you about your research paper. There are two things that we're going to go over today. The first is how you think about doing research as opposed to the opinion essays and the stance essays that we've been working on all term. When you're doing research, it's really important to know that the point of research is to educate yourself so that then you can find a position or elucidate the findings of your research. So when you're looking at a research question, whatever the prompt is, you should go into that research activity knowing that you're looking for findings or clues for an answer. Now that answer may be you pulling ideas together so that you can then link ideas that other people have had into a new position or simply see it through a new lens. But you're not doing research to find things to back up your position. You're doing research to explore the ideas that have been written about already to create a new position or a new finding of your own accord. That's a very different thing from having an idea and going and looking for evidence to support it. So you need to flip the bar on that one. The other thing is that research papers have a couple extra elements to them to make sure that your reader understands what you did and what you used, what you read, what you watched, what you listened to form your ideas. So let's take a look at that. This is a paper called Research Paper Components. It's a slide deck that's available up on our website. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see it. Okay. These are some key research paper components. I would recommend the first time you write a research paper to outline it like this and to structure it like this. Let's go through them one by one. All right. Your research paper should have a title, of course. The title should explain the question that you're working on and give the reader some indication of your answer before they even read a sentence of your paper. Here is let me just float on top here. Here's a research title that's pretty good. How a 0% interest loan program would impact housing disparity among minorities in American cities. We've been looking at that particular paper throughout the term and analyzing it. Here I've done a little bit of wordsmithing on that, some editing to make it what I think is a better title. How a 0% interest loan housing program would correct, and there's the finding, would correct the wealth gap among minorities in American cities. So go back, look at those two versions and see that subtle difference. And that is an example of wordsmithing to get the finding. I think it will correct it, and actually it will correct the wealth gap. Okay? This is a title that I think is lacking. Changing American Neighborhoods Through Money. I think that's not a good title because, one, I don't know how you're going to change it, and two, the phrase through money just doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? It's not articulate enough. It's a rather vague title. Stay away from things like that. And this title is simply uninteresting. Don't use that, okay? So use your title to already teach the reader where you're going to take them. All right, the next section, your introduction. This is different from what you've been writing. The introduction in a research paper has two purposes: to clearly explain the problem or question you've selected to research, and to give your reader the context, the landscape, kind of the lay of the land in which your research is being done. Why is it so topical? Why is it important to look at it now as opposed to some other time? You can do this by keeping the writing in the introduction clear. And by that I mean avoid being cute or asking the reader questions to elicit their interest. Your job in the introduction is no longer to pique their interest, okay? People who are reading research papers are reading them because they're already interested in that topic. You don't have to hook them in any way, all right? I want you to stay clear and stay away from opinion in this. You are stating the facts in a clear way, stating the purpose of your research by explaining the problems or questions, and then explain the context of the question, the landscape this question is being looked in. They typically have a succinct version, a short, crisp version of the overall result, the findings, as the thesis of the paper. And this should appear near the end of the intro section. All right, the next section is research methods. What did you do to come to these findings? You need to explain to the reader exactly what you did. Your goal is to ground the reader with how you are implementing the research so they have a clear understanding of the methods. Here are some common methods that you might mention if you did them. Arrange this section like an ingredient list on a food nutrition label. List the most commonly used method first, and you should describe what you did, not in the first person. This whole thing should be in third person. And then describing what happened next. After you do that, you're going to do a brief literature review. You're going to indicate of the things that you read, what were they about, and what significance did they play in the actual findings of your research. Again, doing this in a kind of an ingredient list method, what was the most important? This is probably going to be the primary source that you're using. And if you have a question about primary source versus secondary source, watch the video that I have on that. All right. As you progress through your academic career, you're going to be collecting knowledge from all the readings and viewings and listenings that you're doing. Okay. They're going to build. And what your job to do in a research paper is to articulate which of the things that you have read, either actively in this research project or previously in your career, in your academic career, are influencing how you're thinking about this, okay? In your review, you will guide the reader through the sources you read or watched or listened to prepare your thinking on this topic, okay? Indicate if there was, so you're going to address each piece of literature, explain it, and the influence it had on your thinking. Again, not in first person, all right? This is all in third person. Indicate if there was sufficient literature, if you had the time and resources, or if the body of knowledge about this topic is simply not deep enough for a complete study at this time, all right? This section will also help you write the annotated bibliography, which we'll get to in a minute. The next section of your paper should be your main arguments. This is what you've been doing all along, right? You've been setting up your main argument, explaining what it is, supporting it with evidence from your reading, and then explaining the relevance of it. You're going to do that here. I think, though, you need to pick one of three methods for doing this. You're either going to give the reader the most important idea or finding first, and then follow it up with the lesser findings, or you're going to start with the lesser findings and build to the most important one, or you can do a kind of a call and response, this question, this finding, this question, this finding. You need to pick which one you think will be most effective, and only you will know that after looking at all of your research and understanding what's the main point and what are the lower points, the lesser points that you want to be communicating. Outline this strictly, okay? Make sure you have quotes, data, and paraphrases. Make sure you use topic sentences, signal phrases, in-text citations, and explanatory text for each of those points. Do not underestimate the need to make these explicit. Your reader has not been thinking about this to the level that you have been. You need to be explicit. You need to explain things slowly and articulately. Be authoritative in your voice. All right, your next section is your conclusion. Recap what you've detailed, restate your thesis and each of your major points. Okay, indicate whether or not you think there's enough literature on this topic. And then summarize your major findings and how they contribute to the body of knowledge you perused, you read while doing your research. If you have a finding that it particularly stands out, articulate it again here, and then leave the reader with your idea as a concept that could impact something in today's world, even if it needs more research to be fully realized. And that's a legit thing to articulate at the end of a research paper if you think that's true. You're going to do a works cited page, all right, just like you have. One pro tip here is for scholarly articles, use the cite button to capture the works cited entry in its perfect form and just copy and paste it into your works cited page, hang the indent, and make it Times New Roman 12-point font. The final section that you should include in a research paper is an annotated bibliography. What you're going to do is copy and paste your works cited page, retitle it annotated bibliography, and then below each entry, you'll notice this is an MLA works cited entry. Below each one of your entries, you are going to, first of all, you'll left align the whole thing, as they have done here, and then you're going to give me about a 3 to 4 sentence annotation, a description of the work. You're going to tell me about the researchers, who they are, and what their goal was in their research. Then you're going to tell me their findings, any contrary findings, and the importance of their work. Okay, you're just summarizing their work in an annotated form. Now, I recommend writing your works cited page as you are reading each of your scholarly journals and watching things. Build that works cited page as you go. Do not wait till the end. I also recommend writing the annotation of each of your articles that you're reading as you're reading it. Right after you're done reading it, just write a paragraph about it. And that's your annotated bibliography. Okay? The purpose of this is to do two things. One, let the reader know what you read, and also key me in on, do I want to go read that? And two, I think this has, and this is why I recommend writing this first before you write your paper. When you go back and read your annotated bibliography, you're going to see threads or themes linking two articles together that you may not have seen when you were reading one article in full and another article in full. By summarizing them, by annotating your articles, your readings, you're going to be able to draw conclusions that you might not have yet drawn. And that is the second reason why you do an annotated bibliography. It also ensures that you fully understand what you've read, because you have to recount it in the annotation. All right, that is the research paper structure I recommend you start with. As you progress as a writer, you will add things to it, but this is a really solid way to approach a research paper. Let me know if you have any questions. Text me if you have any questions. Do not struggle with this. Reach out to me. I want to hear from you if you have any questions. All right, have a wonderful time writing your research paper.